Hi, this is the second part of making our lovely gingery Christmas cake. Heated the fruit, put the pear cider in. This is what it's come down to. There's no excess fluid. So it is beautiful and it smells gorgeous and it's nice and cool. So can you see that?
I'll just tilt you back slightly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got that. You don't have to have it in such a big bowl. But I've lost my big saucepan. I don't know where it went. It's probably in the garden somewhere. Don't ask. So I'm creaming light brown sugar and butter. This is local butter together. And all the measurements will be online. Free range eggs. Now, who are these from today? We'd like to go around using different ones. There we are. Can you see the box?
Yes, they are 10 kri.
Now, the reason I crack on about eggs, literally, is because free range eggs make all the difference. And if you are actually going through all this effort and expense, the little bit extra it costs, it's worth it. And obviously, I won't go on about the benefits to the chickens and all that stuff, because there's been enough documentaries on it. But just buy local if you can. And if you can't buy local, buy them from a supermarket, but try and stick with free range. Now, what I'm going to do, I've got my flour weighed out. Now, let me go back. My oven is preheated on 150. I prepared this last time, but I've buttered inside of my tin with dissolved butter. I've got it on a baking sheet ready. I've got my orange juice, my orange zest, my spice, my Cointreau and a teaspoon of lemon extract. Okay. I've got my eggs, flour, butter. So I'm just creaming. Now, if you like a darker cake, it's going everywhere. Use dark brown sugar, but I don't like that treacly taste. It's almost got, I don't know what it is. I know I'm going on about it, but so this is why I like using the light brown sugar. So now we need to get this egg into here gradually. Now, don't panic too much, because if this splits, I'm mainly doing this for Henry, so, he's not a baker. Lots of you know how to bake. But as you can see, as you fold this in, if it splits, because you've got your flour handy, all you need to do is sprinkle a bit of flour in and it'll stop it. And because this cake is mainly fruit, it's not such a disaster. Don't ask what's going on in the background. As soon as we start doing anything like this, the dogs come from nowhere and then they start raking around in the kitchen, snuffing, drinking out of the dog bowl, eating biscuits. It's like, right, the camera's on, let's go. Right, so we need to get this egg into this. And as you can see, it's going, hey! Stop it now.
Come on, out.
I'm trying to open the fridge door, honestly. I'm going to put a little bit of flour in, a little bit more egg. There we are. And this is what will go, it's really just binding all this gorgeous fruit together. And there's a lot of fruit. And I think there's too much fruit for my tin, to be honest. But we'll see. I don't know if I could make a Christmas cake cupcakes. That would pan out. But because
I don't know. I think small, if you as a gift maybe for.
But normally what I do is I make a couple of these, and the reason I forget what I'm doing half the time is because I only do this, remember, once a year, and I write down the details. But then I might lose them along the way. Now the orange juice, there's quite a lot there from 2 oranges. So what I tend to do is put that in last. And what you want to do when you've joined all this together is you need it to have a dropping consistency. So I don't just automatically put all the orange juice in. I make sure I've got enough to make it drop, and then I leave the rest out because you don't want it overly fluid. So there we are. So we're getting our flour in now. I know this is back to front because I weighed my flour out in that big bowl. And really, it doesn't matter. we're not exactly like we're on the telly and we've got to do all these things correctly. We're just at home making a big mess. That's all we keep saying. Making a mess. And any bakers out there are probably going, oh, look what she's doing. But I never professed to be an expert baker. Look at that. It's gorgeous. Yeah. So we want to make sure we haven't got any bits of butter left in there. Now, zest of 2 oranges. Now, I've made this. You can zest this finer. But I quite like it like this. So if you want to do it on the very finest, that's fine. And this smells gorgeous. Now, this doesn't look a lot of spice for all this. But a lot of the flavour comes from the stem ginger and the fruit and the orange and the lemon essence. We've got a teaspoon of lemon essence in there, don't forget. So now we're starting to smell very, very festive. So remember to leave yourself enough time to cook this because I think this goes in for 3 to 4 hours. Now, we use Cointreau. You can use whiskey. Sometimes I use Jack Daniels because it's a little bit sweeter.
Drambuie is another good one.
Grand Marnier. Grand Marnier. Okay, so we've got that in that. Now, obviously, I can't add all this fruit to here because there's too much. And I started off in life with a lot more mixing bowls. And they've just depleted because I've got a very good helper that helps me wash up.
Oh, me?
And then, or we overstack them in the cupboard. And then, so.
Hang on a sec, let me just catch it as it drops in there.
Okay. Now the fruit in this, because we've put the syrup, ginger syrup in this fruit, it's actually quite sticky. So I'm going to fold this in. Here we go. So you can see most of this cake is very different to lots of Christmas cakes because it's a lot of fruit. And all that sort of batter holds it together in place. And that's what makes it into the cake. So you need to make sure you get all of that batter. I'm calling it batter, you know, the cake mix, around all this delicious fruit. There we are.
Would this count towards your 5 a day?
No, not really. Okay, so can you see that? Okay. So this needs to be dropping consistency. Well, to be honest, it's more like cement consistency at the moment.
2 to 1.
Yeah, so what we're going to do, we're going to take our freshly squeezed orange juice and give that a mix in. I know it seems like we're orange mag, so we've got Cointreau, and if you go into the supermarkets, a lot of places now, if you notice, they're adding orange to lots of things because it's such a beautiful, powerful flavour.
It's that time of year, of course, they're in season.
Yeah. It's when they're at their best. Okay, 1, 2. I would say we're there. So I've hardly used a third of that orange. Right, we've got everything covered. It's not like normal. Yeah, we're there. You don't want it any runnier than that, really. Okay. So at this stage, it's a good time to test it. And it's also a good time to get the family involved and give it a stir and get them to make a wish. Now, we've got a very reluctant 18-year-old upstairs, but I'm going to make him do it anyway. Thanks, dogs. Anyway, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get stirring. Oh, taste. So if you think to yourself, do you know what, this needs a bit more mixed spice for you, then add a little bit more. But remember, in the baking, it always seems to get stronger. You probably will not need any ginger added to this because remember it's got all the ginger, stem ginger in there. But if you think, do you know, I really like my cake spicy, add more spice. So I'm going to go and bang a broom on the ceiling and try and get our son down. That's the only way we can get him down with his noise defending ears things on. And we'll all have a stir and then we'll get it into our prepared tin.
There we go.
You made your wish? Perfect. Right, Dav, you're next.
What are you drinking?
Don't ask what we're drinking.
Ginger wine and lemonade.
Okay. Right, have you made your wish?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to do mine. There we are. Okay. Prepping your cake tin for your Christmas cake. Now, the Christmas cake is in for a long while, and a lot of the modern tins haven't got a very thick skin. Base. Yeah. So this is actually a very old tin I inherited from Davin's Nanan, Iris. So this actually isn't too bad. It's got a really nice deep bottom. But it's
probably made from recycled Spitfires.
Yeah, the bottom's really thick on it. But I still do this as a safeguard because there's so much ingredients and time and money in this. You don't want to burn it. So what you do, sorry.
That's all right, I can't keep
you do
up.
2 layers of greaseproof paper on the bottom and the sides. And the way I find to do it, now the reason my outside looks so oily, I've just put a bit of sort of margarine to hold these two together like glue. And that way they stick together, and then I go round. And then I put my base in, double base, put a bit of margarine on the bottom. Oh, sorry, I meant to say inside the tin as well. And it sticks. Then outside you use 2 layers of brown paper. Now the reason this has got stars on is it's old wrapping paper. But you need to come up 5 centimetres with your greaseproof paper and your brown paper above your tin, because what happens is it comes up higher than your tin and then goes down, and you don't want it all escaping out of your tin. So my actual tin is only there. Okay, the string holds it all in place, so it's like a little tiny beddies. And then what you do, you put it on a flat tin with some more brown paper on the tin, and you can see where I folded my base under.
I've got to keep chasing around.
See where I folded my base under. So there's lots of protection in there. Not only have I got a deep base tin, I've got 2 layers of greaseproof paper, which I will grease. I've got 2 layers of brown paper, 5 centimetres above, and string to hold it. And it is quite a beautiful thing, although I've managed to get grease all over it. But I've used, just like I say, just recycled brown wrapping paper, or the dreaded big online marketplace brown paper that comes with all your packaging. Keep some of that. That's always useful for recycling. It's got to be useful for something. And then, so this is the prep stage, and I always do this the morning I'm going to make my cake, because this is actually quite time consuming, and you don't want to have all your ingredients out and then you're trying to battle with this as well. Give yourself a bit of space. Make sure you measure around your tin to get your length of your paper. I've just managed to get enough to overlap, just. And then obviously measure out the same length with your greaseproof paper. You want to make sure that overlaps a little bit more, because you don't want cake mixture going down there. And so that's a lovely thing ready to go. I'm currently heating my fruit up, which will be on the next section. And then after that, once my fruit goes cold, I can add all my other lovely ingredients to the cake and get it in the oven for a long bake. So don't start your cake at 7 o'clock at night.
Like we did.
Yeah, because it will take 3-4 hours to bake. And you don't want to be wandering around at 1 in the morning trying to get your cake out. Sometimes it even takes longer. I know it sounds weird. It's a really, it all depends on the depth of your tin. So this tin is 20 centimetres across by 6 centimetres deep, and then I've come up by 5 centimetres. Obviously, if you're going for a slightly bigger tin that's shallower, it would take less time. So you've just got to make sure that when you're getting to the end of the stage, if it's starting to catch on the top, what I normally do is my base size, I cut 2 extra pieces, one of greaseproof paper and one of brown paper. And if my top of my cake is just starting to go a bit brown, and it isn't, when I put a skewer in, it's still quite soggy inside, I neatly fit in that piece of paper into here, greaseproof and paper, and what that does, it stops the top burning, but it keeps the inside cooking. So that's another thing that you can do. Also, another tip, when you're ready to preheat your oven, make sure all your wires are in the right place and that they can accommodate that height. Don't get them all hot and then you're there with your oven gloves trying to wrestle your wires out and getting all irritable.
This sounds like we're speaking from experience.
Yes, yes. And also, this is a push-up, that's what I should have said, a push-up button tin. So when you're handling it, that's why I put it on a flat sheet. So then, when you're putting this in the oven, you don't stick your fingers through and all the mix comes out the bottom. Learning, always learning.
The hard way.
So it goes on a flat sheet with some brown paper. You preheat your oven and remember to give yourself enough time and don't make it a rush thing. Enjoy the process. If you've left it too late and you're heating your fruit and you think, oh no, I haven't got enough time tonight, don't worry, keep all your ingredients. Your butter has to be soft anyway. Eggs are fine, just cover them over. Leave your fruit, because your fruit's got to cool anyway before you start adding it to your flour, sugar, zest and everything else. So let your fruit cool and then tackle it the next stage. Just make sure nothing's crawling in it. You don't want a spider in your, or any other foreign bodies that might drop in there.
Additional protein.
Yeah, so just cover over and just do it. Don't make things a chore, make them really enjoyable. And when you come to the stirring section, get all the family involved and get them all to do a stir and make a wish. And then you just feel like everyone's been involved. So, and then everyone fights over the spoon. So you can use 3 spoons and then you'll get a tiny little pre-taste. Anyway, that's me. So next stage is soaking fruit, heating it up and getting ready for those lovely smells. Okay, so I've read somewhere that with a cake, it's good to put 2 layers of brown paper on your flat tin. And the reason, I think I've told you before, we use a flat tin is because this is a removable base tin. If you're handling it, it's very easy to stick your finger underneath and get all the filling out when you're checking. So we are covered. We've got flat tin, we're double lined outside with brown paper, 2 sheets of brown paper on the bottom.
But this is if we find now. This is the point we found out if we've been a bit ambitious.
See, Davin's Nana's cake tin is smaller than most nowadays. It's quite a dinky-doo tin. It's 20 by 6 centimetres. So I've got a feeling we're going to have extra mix left, but we'll see. Now I'm taking this. Remember that this is 5 centimetres. The paper taller. So I'm actually getting this cake to the top of the tin. Cake mixture to the top where the tin should be. So there. We're not going to have that much left, you know.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah. And then what will happen is it will rise up the sides of the paper. Yeah. Okay. Now don't worry too much about pressing this. I know you won't, because there's not that much air in it. You know when you fold a cake in and normally you don't want to lose your air. Well, to be honest, there's so much weight in this. I don't think we have to worry about that too much. So I'm just going to get it evenly all round. And all we've got left, and I'll show you, is that. So probably 100 grams less fruit and we'd probably be spot on. Now I might do that next year. I know this sounds weird and it might be the right amount. Sometimes it's to do with how the fruit swells, how much volume it takes up. So it can vary. So I never like to be under I always like to make sure that I've got enough. Now, what is a good thing, I don't know if you actually can see. Can you see here?
I'm trying to focus on that.
Is what you do with a Christmas cake. You make a very light indent in the middle, like a very shallow, like that. And that helps. Obviously, when the centre rises up, you don't have like a big dome. So we just push all that to the edge a bit. Then what we do, tell you what, there's some weight in there. That is one heavy cake. Don't give yourself a hernia putting this in the oven. So we shake it all, make sure it's all in. We're about right. Our oven's temperature. I've already pre-moved my shelves. So that's great because remember what I said about moving your shelves. It's easier to move them when they're cold than when they're hot. So this is going in the oven. I'm going to set my timer for 3 hours and check it. And then maybe turn it because my oven's a little bit, I sometimes get it out and turn it round because it seems to do on one side. It's not one of these big high-tech ovens. Watch it, keep an eye on it. Putting a skewer into it, if it keeps coming out almost like this doughy mixture, it's not ready. And it takes as long as it takes. Now remember to cut a piece that fits internally into there of greaseproof paper, brown paper. And then if it starts catching on the top before it's done inside, you can pop that in there, just inside here, and it will stop it catching and burning. Because you don't want this to burn, because it's cost a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of love. And to waste it would be criminal, really. So that's where we are. This is going in the oven, and we'll next see you.
If it's 3 hours' time, it'll be dark outside.
Okay, see you soon. So, Christmas cake is out. It's been out for a little while. It was in for 3.5 hours, and I put a skewer in, and it came out fine. I had to put this on the top because, as you can see, it's going pretty brown. Some of these are quite brown, so I'll just take those off before I put marzipan on and ice. So it's just a matter then of taking off.
The big reveal.
It's not really a big reveal. Take that off, and then as you can see, this is still quite warm because obviously it's holding quite a bit of heat. You can see, I'm doing it like this so you can you see the sides?
Yeah, I'll zoom in slightly.
It's a very, very moist cake. Take that off so you can see a lot of moisture's come out. You can now see why you need so many bits of greaseproof paper and stuff. So it's a nice, thick, moist cake. You can see the indentation on. It's quite a dark cake anyway, even though it's caught a little bit there. I should have put this on a bit earlier, but it'll be fine. The indentation that I put on before has risen. It's risen up. It rose up past the side of the tin into the brown paper, so it was definitely worth putting that on. And it looks like a really lovely moist cake. Now what I'm hoping to do is leave this for a little bit, maybe a week or two, then I'm going to marzipan it, then you leave it for 2 weeks, and then you ice it. And the reason you leave it is so the cake doesn't go through your icing. So you put your marzipan on, you set it in a tin, and then you ice after. So this is going to go, as soon as this has cooled down, this will go into a tin, wrapped in brown paper, probably reuse some of this. It'll be stored. Now some people put little holes in and add alcohol, and they tip it in every so often.
Feeding the cake.
Feeding the cake, yeah. But like I say, some of these little brown bits, the bits that have caught a bit too much, you can pop off. Because remember, this is going to be iced anyway. The reason that this one catches a bit more than others is because it's got the syrup from the stem ginger in. So it's got a much higher sugar content. So it seems to catch a little bit. You can always use a sharp knife and take that off before you marzipan, because normally you'd level out your cake anyway if you had a dome. But I think I'm just going to take those little bits off. But this should be super yummy. And what we did with the little bits that we had left, I put them in a little cake case and cooked them. Obviously not as long as this. And it did taste really, really nice. We just broke it open to see what the actual general taste was going to be. So there we go. That's our light. When I say light, it looks
light
dark.
Yet dark.
But it's lighter than a normal Christmas cake, which is almost black. So I'm going to take this off the bottom, put it onto a cooling rack, let it cool, wrap it up, and then sort out the marzipan and icing. I'm going to be using done marzipan. I'm not making my own, and pre-roll or ready to roll icing as well, just to keep life simple. I'm not sure what I'm going to put on the top of it yet, but we'll think of something.
An alpine scene.
Oh, let's not go too bad. A blob in the middle. But anyway, whatever it is, it will look fairly festive. Bye.